Hi Leo, welcome to Yellow Cardinal Tarot with me. My name is Carol and this is going to be a general reading for you, and I trust that when it comes into your feed it's meant for you, and that's why I didn't put a date on it. So if you're new to my channel, I would really appreciate it if you did two things for me. First of all, if you've subscribed to my channel. I know a lot of you out there watch my videos but don't subscribe, the most of you. And so it really helps my videos if you subscribe. It's free. If you've enjoyed it, if you got something out of it, then, do me a favor and subscribe for it. That would really help me out. And secondly, if you can comment below and just, I'd like to get sort of a community going where I can start to talk to you in some of your comments that you send me. So that would be great because I am a newer channel. I think I'm only a couple years old. So I know there are a lot of people out there that have not seen my channel, and it is a healing channel. And I do a lot of everything shadow work on this channel. So I would really love to get my message out to more people. So let's get started with your reading right now. We're going to be doing the blind spot. We're going to find out what your blind spot is. And remember that a blind spot is something you don't see. You don't know. Things are going on, but you just really have no awareness that there's something that you're not seeing. And a lot of times it can be our ego self that will really block something. There's a block there, and we're going to figure out what is that block, and it's something that needs healing. So I always think about, when I do this reading, I always think about the first oracle deck that I ever bought was Teal. I always call her Swan Teal, but it's Teal Swan. Teal Swan's blind spot oracle cards. And they're a bit different, or a lot different in fact, because they have these what are called sigils on them. And I've already picked out your sigil. You got number 40 because I wanted to look at it. And I like to really get a feel for. Sometimes I can see certain things on there, and I think, for you just to take a look at it and see if there's anything that pops out for you as you look at it. And these are not symbols in any way. These are actually magical energy, I'm going to say. They have a way of pulling out our blind spots, and it's not like they're not themes. They're just there's something going on, and I'll read what it is. And we're gonna, in this reading, we're gonna figure out, how it all relates to this, because this is gonna help us. They're magical. It's gonna help us pull it out. So let's begin with yours. You have number 40. And, I just noticed that I went to page 40. So I need to go to your number and see what you got. Okay, all right. You have suppression. If you've drawn this sigil, I have a piece of hair in the way. If you've drawn this sigil, you are suppressing. Suppressing is the act of trying to stop yourself from becoming aware of or expressing or acting on something that is arising within you. You can suppress a great many things. For example, you can try to stop yourself from feeling emotions or stuff them down. To stuff down emotions is to silence a personal truth that is desperate to come out. And you can refuse to acknowledge or express a desire or a need, just to name a few. If you've drawn this sigil, you need to stop suppressing in order to get anywhere relative to the situation at hand. So let's take a peek at what you're suppressing and what's being stuffed down. But more importantly, why, right? Why are you shoving this down? Why are you suppressing it? And so I'm going to use the Curious Travels deck for you to start off with. And then I'm going to use the Radiant Rider-Waite to clarify. And I've pre-shuffled these cards. So let's have a card for Leo. I'm going to look at don't know if I explained what I was going to look at. Yeah, so I'm going to look at what situation or issue or decision you're facing right now in regards to this suppression. And then I'm going to look at what's coming up from your shadow. So we're going to be doing some shadow work here. And your shadow is your unconscious, those things that you've pushed away or repressed when you were younger you don't want to look at. So it's interesting that you're suppressing something that's coming up from from your shadow that needs to be healed. And we're going to see what situation you're sitting in regards to this. And then I'm going to look at what guidance does the tarot have for you to begin to heal this, right? And we only start off with this is a healing journey. It's a process. So we're going to give you, the tarot's going to give you something that is, something tangible, something that you can do that will help you in this situation. It's not a magical pill because it takes some time for things to move out of our system. And then I'll also suggest a playlist for you or another video at the end from my other channel called Carol Cares that will help you with what you're working through. All right, so can I have one card for Leo as to what situation, issue, decision, maybe a pattern they're facing right now? One card for them. You have the Page of Pentacles in reverse. What's coming up from your shadow that needs healing? One card. And so, yeah, we're really focusing on, why are you suppressing this? And trying to get some answers here. Why don't you want to look at this, or whatever the situation is? One card. There we go. You have the High Priestess in reverse. And advice from the tarot. One card for that. Whoa. You have a lot of cards here. I think I'm just going to take this one, the Two of Swords. Let's clarify. Tell me some more about the Page of Pentacles. A couple cards for that. There we go. You have the Hierophant and the Six of Cups. Behind the Page of Pentacles. Tell me some more about the High Priestess. Okay, I think this card wants to come out. When I see that I can't, it wants to come out. If I can't deal anymore, can't shuffle, then it's like, okay. All right, so in a sideways position, you have the Eight of Wands and the Six of Swords. Behind the High Priestess. In reverse. Two of Swords, couple clarifiers for that. One and one more card. That one flipped. A couple cards flipped there for you. Okay. You have the Ten of Pentacles, the Temperance card, and the King of Swords in reverse. So they wanted you to have three clarifiers. Okay, let's look at what situation you're sitting in right now, Leo, in regard to why you're suppressing, or, let's look at what's going on. So I can see why you're suppressing. First of all, you have a page coming up for you, a Page of Pentacles. It's in reverse. So the fact that it's in reverse will tell me that there's a real ignoring of this page. And the page in my deck, there's 4 of them. They represent our inner children. We can have more than one inner child. I've been on my own healing journey for about 8.5 years now intensively. And I know I do parts therapy, so I know I have more than one inner child. And our inner children will hold our memories, they'll hold our big emotions, they'll hold trauma, right? They know our stories. And there's a particular inner child right here that is coming out right now, and it's blocked. Maybe there's a resistance on your part. Maybe you know there's something coming up here. And there's a fear maybe for you to listen to it, right? Because our inner children need healing. And in order to do that, we need to listen to them. We need to hear them out. I do that through my journaling. And we need to feel the big emotions that they didn't feel when they were younger because they couldn't. They were too young. And so maybe there is like a part of you that doesn't want to feel. This particular inner child has a pentacle. And the pentacle is all about our body. And it's all about being grounded. When you were younger, you had... you were very, very grounded. We all were when we're about 4, 5, 6 years old. And then stuff starts happening to us, and we find out that, you know, painful things happen to us, and right away we go out of our body because we go into our head, because our ego likes to keep us in our head because there's no emotions here. And so you have this inner part of you that wants to be in their body, that wants to feel these emotions. So you do have some emotions that are coming up for sure. And there's a real big call for you to get back into your body and to get grounded, to get centered, and to feel what these emotions are. But I think the way that you were wired, because this particular card, the Hierophant card, talks about the way that you were wired when you were younger. This papal figure is just spewing out his information to these 2 disciples below, and they're listening, they're taking everything in, right? When you were younger, you were this sponge, and you took everything in, Leo. You were a child that we all were. We were sponges, and you took everything on. And so that's the way that you were wired. I mean, Leo is very much a very vibrant, creative, emotional for sure, very charming. So, you know, you would have taken in all of this and all of this, of these emotions, and maybe, you know, maybe you've taken on other people's emotions, but you were wired that way. You were wired to take all this in, but yet because of something that happened to you when you were younger and things that happened, you couldn't handle a lot of these situations that were around you, and a lot of these big emotions and things that were happening. It was just too much for you, and then you ended up being in your head. And so there's an inner child here that needs healing. And you end with the 6 of Cups, and the 6 of Cups is another inner child card that I have. There's the 4 pages, and then there's this one, and this one talks about this giving and receiving, right? And my 6s all have this duality. So I think when you were younger, a real younger part of you learned maybe to take and take and take, and maybe didn't, and oftentimes if we don't learn that whole exchange of taking and giving, right? Maybe you had people that took things from you, right? Maybe you were asked at a very young age to do things that were, you know, shouldn't have been asked from a child, right? Sometimes a lot of children have to do things that are really adult things, and they can't. They're not able to. And I think this is what's happening here, where I think you were wired as a young child to expected to be adult-like too soon. Whatever the situation is, this is a general reading, but I think I'm seeing that you were asked to be an adult when you were just a child, and you couldn't handle that, and no child can. And so, so I think there's some real healing that has to be done around this, and some real emotions, real big emotions that you couldn't feel when you were younger. and it's time now for you to feel them. So we're going to see what's coming up from your shadow that's affecting, that's, you know, has the biggest impact on what your situation that you're sitting with right now. We have the High Priestess. And the High Priestess is a card normally that means our intuition. It's going inwards and trusting our gut and just having that inner knowing about certain things, right? This is in reverse for you, and it's sitting in your shadow. So there's a part of you that lost that ability to be in touch with yourself and be in touch with your intuition and be in touch with knowing. Believe it or not, when you are 4, 5, 6 years old, a young child, you were grounded, and you also were very intuitive when you were younger. You just had that gut feeling. But that was like something that was turned off, because when you're younger and you're wired to be an adult when you're just a child, well, there's a lot of things that shut off quickly because you can't handle this. And so you just go right up in your head. When we're young and we have intuition, it is because we're in our bodies when we're really, really young. When we are forced to go up in our head and not be in our bodies anymore because we can't feel these big emotions, then we lose our intuition, like I said, because you, in order to have access to your gut feeling and your inner knowing of who you are, you have to be in your body. And the same thing with an adult. Adults, in order to be intuitive, and everybody has intuition. It's a feminine quality that we all have that's been pushed down for years. We all have it. Doesn't matter what gender you are. But you have to be in your body. And so I can see here that you weren't in your body you lost your intuition when you were younger. You lost that inner knowing. And so let me just peek at this for a second. So you can see how there was so much suppression going on, right? There was just a lot that was suppressed, like you lost your intuition. You lost your capability to be able to feel these emotions if you became an adult too soon. 8 of Wands comes next, and the Wands talks about our passion. It talks about our, not so much passion, but talks about our focus, right? Having a real focus of moving in one direction. And that's sideways here. So you really lost sense of where you were going, what your focus was. Wands talks about moving towards our true purpose and our creativity. And that was all buried as well. So you can see here that these qualities that we have when we're really younger, our intuition, our creativity, our sense of purpose, in your case, were lost because, like I said, you were required to be an adult, I'm going to say, before you were able to be a child. And so, and then the Six of Swords is the last card in your shadow. And the Six of Swords talks about this individual that's bringing this mother and a child. Looks like they're bringing them to a safer place. You have this real rough water here in the corner that they're moving away from, and they're going towards smoother waters over here. And so I always call this my safety card. When you were younger, you didn't feel safe. You were in an environment where you did not feel safe. And any child that is forced or made to become an adult before their time feels very frightened and very scared. So there's no support there for them. I mean, we need support around us so that we feel free to, take risks. And so I think you lost that. You didn't feel safe. And so there's a lot here that really talks to me and speaks to me of someone and that's what you're suppressing, I think. And that's what's going on here, is that maybe you're someone that is living right now as an adult in a lot of fear. Because if we're not safe when we're younger, we have a lot of fear. And you know, people that feel a lot of anxiety, maybe you're one of those that people live from a place of anxiety. And oftentimes, and I'm one of them, I didn't even realize that I was living from that place. It was because that was my constant state of living in fear. Anybody that has lived in a really traumatic environment comes from that. That is their constant state of living in fear if they don't have safety. And so as an adult, you're living in fear still. And we don't often realize that that's sometimes what we're used to, because that's what we were used to when we were younger. And so what guidance does the tarot have for you right now? Because if any of this is resonating with you, you know, the anxiety, the not feeling safe to be in our bodies, not feeling safe to really take any risks, to get out there and, you know, go for what you want to do anything, you know, kind of rock the boat. And maybe you're one of those people that just keeps everything safe in your environment, right? You like to have everything in place and very safe. I mean, as a sign, Leo, you are normally very courageous and very bold, and you want to be playful, and you're very creative. You have that childlike innocence, that playfulness in you. That is something that's been given to you. And it looks like because you were made to be an adult too soon, that was all taken from you. And so what guidance does the tarot have for you right now? Well, it sees you as this individual, the Two of Swords, and very much someone right now, they see you as very closed. The Two of Swords talks about this individual that has definitely crossed their heart. Again, Swords energy is about your mental thoughts and what you think. It's all about being in your head, right? And oftentimes, it's got a cow figure here. And it's almost like, you know, that expression, stubborn as a bull. You know, I think of that right now where you've just closed off from feeling anything. And that is a safe place for you, is to just not feel. And that's where you are right now. And the universe wants to look at that, wants you to bring awareness to that, and saying that is what you've done for yourself, where you've created this wall, and it's like, I'm not feeling anything. I've crossed my arms, and usually there's black back there, but normally in the Rider-Waite deck, they have water at the back where the emotions are flowing, right? And you just don't see them. But in your case, it's like, nope, I've closed the door on my emotions. And the universe is thinking, and the tarot, you know, guides is saying, you know what? You need to look at this. You need to look at, okay, why is that door closed? Why are you sitting there in a state of, I'm sitting in my head, I am not going in my body, I'm not touching anything, I'm closed off. Well, right behind this Two of Swords comes the Ten of Pentacles. And the Ten of Pentacles is a very interesting card because it has generations of, first of all, of people on the card. It has a grandfather with his magical coat on, right? He's got a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom in this card. Then you have another generation, and then you have a younger child here with the right in front, behind the dogs, you know, clinging on to an adult, right? And this could be you, you know, clinging on desperately, wanting the support of, because you're scared. There's a scared child here. There's generations in this card. So this speaks about lineage, this card, but it also speaks about, you see these pentacles right here. They're not just, you know, put on this card in any way. It's not like they've thrown these pentacles and just said, I'm going to draw one here and there. It's actually a formation of the Kabbalistic tree of life. It's from the Jewish tradition. And it talks about this, a study that they do. They study their lineage. And each one of these pentacles are nodes on this tree of life they study. And And it really is a study of where they came from, knowing where you came from. And so this card speaks about lineage and knowing where you came from. And so for me, the Ten of Pentacles represents the whole trauma of what sort of trauma was passed down to you, right? Becoming aware. And I think it's here for you to say, you know, Leo, you need to become aware of what is it, who you were raised by, that taught you to shut down your emotions because their emotions were shut down themselves. And that's something that, you know, what sort of trauma is coming out here that was handed down to you? Why did you shut down your emotions, right? What is this trauma? What is it? Why are you so scared? Why were you made to be an adult? What things were asked of you when you were younger? It could be something like you had to care for an adult in your life when you were very little, when you yourself needed the caring, but you had to care for someone else. You know, when did you become an adult? Why did you become an adult when you were younger? And how is that part of what was handed down to you from your lineage? A big reminder here when the Temperance card comes down, right? Comes in. Because Temperance here, you have this, first of all, you have water in this picture. Every time there's water in the card, it represents emotions. There are emotions here that you need to get to, obviously. And that's what you're suppressing. That's what you have suppressed because you were taught not to have emotions when you were younger. They weren't even a thing. You couldn't. There was no place for them. And this Temperance card says, you know, this is like a middle ground. This is like a little bit at a time, in moderation, right? It's really time for you, Leo, to just start to feel just a little bit of whatever it is you need to feel. I'm going to say there's a lot of grief that's sitting behind that these inner children of yours have. You have two of them. You have the Six of Cups and the Page of Pentacles. Well, Six of Cups, that cups talks about emotions. And so there's a lot of emotions that need to be felt here. Your inner children need healing and they need to grieve. They need to grieve the fact that you had to be an adult, that you didn't have a childhood. And this Temperance says, you know, we're going to do this a little bit at a time. I know when I first started my own healing journey, I was told, you know, for any emotion you couldn't get to, I couldn't get to anger. Maybe there is anger there for you too, right? Because you have all the right in the world to be angry at people that raised you and didn't give you the childhood that you needed, didn't allow you to be a child, right? There's a lot of anger there as well. And so you try to, you know, you ground yourself, you allow yourself to feel what it is you need to feel. And then when it becomes, if you think, oh my God, I can't handle this, you turn the faucet off. And next time, you know, try to turn it on a little bit more next time. And then you turn it off if you can't handle it. But Temperance says, you know, just a little bit at a time, just a little bit. You have the King of Swords here that's sitting here as the last card. And the sword, single sword, talks about your authenticity, your truth, and who you really are. Leo, getting back to that person that you were before your childhood was taken away from you, where you weren't allowed to feel, where you weren't allowed to, you know, learn to be what it means to be a child and feel all your emotions and to be free. And then you've got this, your ego here this is your masculine side. That's what I see the kings are, your masculine side, because we all have a feminine side and a masculine side. And your ego does not want you to get back to who you are. You have, right now, we talked about how this Two of Swords came out right at the beginning. It's interesting that the Two of Swords is here saying, nope, I'm not touching these emotions. You've got this ego. It's going, no, you're not getting back to your authenticity, because you know that's how you're going to get back to your authenticity, is feeling those emotions. That's how you heal yourself. And you get to find out who you really are, right? Because you've been suppressing this all along. This ego of yours is a very, very scared part. It doesn't want you to touch your emotions because it knows when you were younger what would have happened if you would have expressed your emotions. And it's saying, no, don't go there, because their ego self lives in the past. They don't know what's going on right now. They always live in the past. And so you have these two as bookends. Really solid, saying, no, don't go there. Don't you dare go here. You need to stay in your head. You can't go in your body. That's where you're going to feel these emotions. And so there's a real call for you right now to get out of your head, because that's where your ego wants to keep you right now, Leo. But you need to get in your body because you need to feel. So I'm going to give you a playlist on grounding, because you really need to focus how to get into your body, how to center yourself, so you can start to feel some of these emotions that you've been suppressing for a long time. And so I want you to have compassion for yourself for what you're working through. This is the most difficult journey of your life, but it's the most important one. So remember to subscribe if you haven't done that. And I'm going to leave you with, like I said, a playlist on grounding. So talk soon, Leo. Bye.